All right, so let's get right into it. Let's tackle this question that seems to follow gamers everywhere. Wired versus wireless. Which setup reigns supreme in 2024? We've been getting tons of questions from you all about this, and we dove deep into the research. We checked out a top gaming tech resource to try to get to the bottom of this debate for you.
It really is amazing how this debate has just continued for years. It's like a constant back and forth. I remember way back in the day, wireless mice were almost a joke in the gaming community. Lag, interference, every click felt like a gamble.
Oh, yeah. Going wireless back then, it just felt like you were asking to lose. But this analysis we looked at, it really shows just how much has changed. Now we're seeing sub-millisecond latency, all thanks to new tech. Things like dedicated 2.4 gigahertz receivers and gaming-optimized Bluetooth.
Yeah, it's seriously impressive. Wireless tech has come such a long way. Like Logitech's Lightspeed and Razer's Hyperspeed, those are great examples. They've basically blown past the old limits of wireless. And get this, even when your battery is low, modern wireless mice keep that crazy speed and responsiveness. You just wouldn't see that with the older models.
Really? So no more battery anxiety. That's a big deal, especially for those long gaming marathons.
Exactly. Imagine you're right in the middle of a game, things are getting intense, and then boom, your mouse starts lagging, battery's dying. That used to be like the ultimate fear for wireless gamers. But now, with these advancements, you can pretty much forget about that worry.
Okay, that's awesome. So it sounds like the tech itself isn't really holding wireless back anymore, but what about the pro scene? Have esports embraced wireless gaming mice?
Oh yeah, totally. It's been like a revolution. Think about it. Just a few years ago, you almost never saw a pro using a wireless mouse in a tournament. It was way too risky, way too unreliable. But now, it's everywhere. Over 60% of CS2 and CS2 pros are using wireless mice now, especially the Logitech G Pro X Superlight. And it's not just limited to CS.2 either. We're seeing the same thing in Valorant and Overwatch.
Wow, that's a huge shift. So what's driving it? Is it just the improved tech, or is there something more?
Well, the tech is obviously a big part of it.
Wow.
But there's also this huge performance benefit. No cable drag. Think about it. These pros are making split-second decisions. Their movements have to be perfect. Even the tiniest bit of drag can throw everything off. Wireless mice free them from that physical constraint. It gives them a real edge.
It makes you wonder if there's a mental aspect to it, too, like knowing you're not tethered to anything. Maybe that gives you a boost in confidence, and that translates to better performance.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. There's definitely something to be said for that feeling of freedom, especially in those high-pressure competitive moments. And, even top players like S1 Bull and 10Z, they've talked about how going wireless actually improved their game. They've said it helped with their flick shots and overall consistency. Those are some serious endorsements.
Okay, so wireless has clearly come a long way, but let's break it down. Let's talk about the specific benefits of going wireless. Besides the obvious freedom of movement, what else is in it for gamers?
Well, that freedom of movement, it's not just about looking cool. It can actually help reduce wrist fatigue.
Yeah.
Especially during those long gaming sessions. No cable means less strain, less resistance, and ultimately more comfortable gameplay.
And let's be honest, a clean setup just feels good. No more tangled cables snaking across your desk, just pure gaming bliss.
Yeah, for sure. It's aesthetic and ergonomic. And then you add in the crazy battery life we're seeing now, up to 70 hours on a single charge. Some models even have rapid charging or charging mouse pads. Battery anxiety is becoming a thing of the past.
So wireless is sounding pretty tempting, but there's gotta be a catch, right? What are the downsides of ditching the wire? Give me the hard truth.
Okay, well, the first one is usually the toughest. Cost. You're going to pay more for that wireless freedom.
Yeah.
Often 20 to 30 euros more than a similar wired mouse. And you might have to factor in the cost of accessories too. Things like charging box or replacement batteries down the line.
Right. That makes sense. What about battery degradation? I've always been a bit hesitant about wireless stuff because I feel like the battery life always gets worse over time.
Yeah, I get that. It's a valid concern. Battery tech has improved a lot. But those batteries do degrade eventually. It means you might have to replace a perfectly good mouse just because the battery isn't holding a charge like it used to.
Okay, that's something to think about. What about interference? I've heard wireless mice can be affected by other devices, especially in crowded environments.
Yeah, that's true. It's definitely something to consider, especially if you live in an apartment building or if you game in public spaces with a lot of wireless signals.
And I guess, even with those super low latency numbers, technically speaking, wireless is still going to be a tiny bit slower than wired, right?
You're right. It's a super small difference. Most gamers probably won't even notice it. But for those who are obsessed with having the absolute fastest speed, wired still technically wins.
Plus, there's that whole dongle thing. If you lose that tiny little receiver, your fancy wireless mouse becomes a useless brick.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And I guess we should also mention the environmental impact. Wireless mice need batteries, they have more complex electronics, and they often have a shorter lifespan than wired mice.
Mm-hmm.
It all adds up.
Right, so it sounds like there are some good reasons to stick with wired too. What are the main benefits of staying tethered, besides the cost savings?
Well, we talked about interference with wireless, so if you're in an environment where that's a problem, wired might be a safer choice. And like you said, wired mice are usually cheaper. You can get great performance without spending a ton of money.
And for those gamers who are super sensitive to latency, or who just want that peace of mind of a rock-solid connection, wired still delivers. No batteries to worry about, no signal drops, just plug and play.
Yep. And from an environmental standpoint, wired mice are better, no batteries to dispose of, simpler construction, potentially longer lifespan. It all adds up to a smaller footprint.
Okay, so it seems like both wired and wireless have their own strengths and weaknesses. So how should a gamer decide? It feels like there's no clear winner.
You got it. It's not about picking a winner. It's about finding what works best for you. What are your priorities? Do you want freedom of movement and a clean setup? Wireless might be the way to go. Are you
Yeah.
on a budget? Are you all about minimizing latency? Maybe wired is better for you. It really comes down to what matters most.
So let's get more specific. What are the key things gamers should consider when choosing between wired and wireless?
Well, a budget is a big one, of course. But it's not the only thing. Think about your play environment. Do you have a big desk or a small one? What's your play style like? Do you use high or low sensitivity? Do you play for hours at a time? Even your personal preferences matter. Like how often do you charge your devices? How much do you hate cables? It all comes into play.
And so there's a lot to think about. If someone's leaning towards wireless, what are the most important things to look for in a mouse?
If you're going wireless, definitely look for a model with fast charging. That way, even if you forget to charge it overnight, you can quickly top it up and get back to gaming. Also, look for dual connectivity options like 2.4 gigahertz and Bluetooth. It gives you more flexibility. It means you can still use your mouse even if one connection method isn't working.
And what about those who are sticking with wired? Any tips for them?
Absolutely. If you're team wired, invest in a good quality paracord cable and a bungee. They can make a world of difference. A paracord cable is way lighter and more flexible than a regular rubber cable, less drag, and more freedom of movement. And a bungee keeps your cable elevated and out of the way. No more snags or tangles.
Okay, so it sounds like there's no right or wrong answer here. It's all about finding the best option for you. But even within wired and wireless, there are so many different models with different features and performance levels and prices. It can be overwhelming.
You're telling me. That's why it's so important to do your research. Read reviews, watch comparison videos, check out forums, see what other gamers are saying. Don't just trust the marketing hype. Dig a little deeper and get a feel for what the mouse is actually like to use.
Yeah, good point. Maybe we could even do a whole episode on paracord cables.
Uh-huh. Maybe not a whole episode. But we can definitely talk about what to look for in a cable and a bungee. They're more important than a lot of people realize.
So stay tuned.
For sure. The world of gaming peripherals is always changing. There's always something new to discover.
Welcome back to round 2 of our wired versus wireless showdown.
So we've established that both wired and wireless have their own perks and drawbacks. What are your thoughts so far? Anything that stood out to you about how wireless tech has evolved or its impact on the gaming world?
Honestly, I'm super impressed with how quickly wireless mice have taken over esports. I mean, think about it. Back in the day, pros were practically taping down their mouse cables just to reduce drag. It's crazy to think that wireless has gotten so good, so reliable and high performing, that now it's the go-to for so many top players.
It really shows you how much the technology has changed. And it goes back to that idea we talked about before, that psychological edge. Imagine, you're competing at the highest level, and you know that even a tiny snag on your mouse cable could mean you lose. Wireless takes away that mental burden. Players can just focus on their game.
Yeah, it's like they're free in every sense of the word. And when you have legends like S1 Bumple and Tenzi praising wireless, you know it's not just hype. These are players who demand the best.
Yeah.
And they're choosing wireless for a reason.
Exactly. And it's not just about performance either. There's a practical side to it too. Think about setting up at a LAN event. No more messing with cables. No more tripping over wires. It's just a cleaner and simpler experience.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the big picture, the tech, the trends, but let's get practical. If someone's listening to this and they're ready to make a decision, what are the things they need to consider when choosing a mouse?
Well, as we said before, budget is a big one. Wireless mice tend to cost more, but the price difference isn't as big as it used to be. So you have to ask yourself, is wireless freedom worth the extra cost?
Right. And it's not just the price of the mouse itself. You might also need things like charging docks
Hmm.
or replacement batteries, maybe even a wireless mouse pad.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of the environment, wireless mice do have a bigger impact because of the batteries and electronics. So if sustainability is important to you, that's something to keep in mind.
So besides budget and the environment, what else should people think about?
Well, consider your play environment. Do you have a big desk with lots of space? Or are you working with a smaller setup? If space is tight, that wireless freedom could be a game changer.
And what about play style? High or low sensitivity? How long are your gaming sessions?
Those are all important factors. For example, if you're a low sensitivity gamer, someone who makes big sweeping movements across their mouse pad,
Yeah.
wireless can be amazing. You don't have that feeling of the cable holding you back.
But then again, some gamers prefer the feel of a wired mouse, especially for games where you need really precise aiming and quick reflexes. It really comes down to personal preference.
And there's ergonomics too. Some people find wireless mice more comfortable for long sessions because there's no cable tugging on their wrist. Others prefer the stability of a wired mouse. Again, it's about what feels right for you.
So there are a lot of things to consider. Is there a way to simplify this whole decision-making process? What's the most important thing for gamers to focus on?
I think the most important thing is to be honest with yourself. What do you really need from a gaming mouse? What are your must-haves? Is it performance, freedom of movement, comfort? Once you know what you need, you can narrow down your options and focus on the features that matter most.
So once you know what you need, what's the next step? How do you actually pick a specific model?
Research is key. Read reviews, watch comparison videos, check out forums, see what other gamers are saying. Don't just believe the marketing. Do your own digging and get a real sense of what the mouse is like.
And don't be afraid to ask for recommendations, talk to your friends, check out online gaming communities, see what other people are using and why they like it.
Exactly. And if you can, try out different mice before you buy one. Most stores have demo units, so you can get a feel for the ergonomics, the button placement, the overall design. It's the best way to make sure you're choosing a mouse that fits you.
Okay, so research, recommendations, try before you buy. Got it. Now you mentioned that we'll talk about specific models and features in a future deep dive, but can you give us a sneak peek? What should gamers be looking for in a wireless mouse?
If you're going wireless, one of the most important things is a reliable and low latency connection. Technologies like Logitech Lightspeed and Razer Hyperspeed are really good, so look for those.
And what about battery life? That's got to be a big concern for wireless gamers.
Oh yeah, for sure. You want a mouse that can last a long time on a single charge. Some models now get up to 70 hours in battery life, which is amazing. Also look for things like fast charging or wireless charging. Those can be really helpful.
So wireless mice have come a long way. No more lag and battery anxiety. But what about those who are sticking with wired? Any advice for them?
Definitely. If you're team wired, get yourself a good paracord cable and a bungee. They can make a huge difference. A paracord cable is so much lighter and more flexible than a regular cable. Less drag, more freedom of movement. And a bungee keeps your cable up and out of the way, so you don't have to worry about snags or tangles.
Okay, so it seems like no matter what you choose, there are ways to make your setup better, more comfortable, more enjoyable. But I think the most important thing to remember is that the best mouse for you is the one that feels the best in your hand, the one that feels the most natural to use. It's not about chasing specs or trends. It's about finding a tool that works for you, a tool that helps you play your best.
I agree 100%. And that's something we'll keep talking about in the next part of our deep dive. We'll look at specific features, talk about ergonomics, and really break down what makes a great gaming mouse, wired or wireless.
Sounds good. Welcome back for the final part of our wired versus wireless deep dive.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground. The evolution of the tech, the pros and cons of each option, even how the pros are using them.
It's been a wild ride. But before we wrap up, I think there's one more thing we should talk about, something that's really important. The environmental impact of all this gaming gear.
Absolutely. It's easy to get caught up in the hype, always wanting the newest and coolest gadgets. But we have to think about the bigger picture too.
Right. So as gamers, what can we do to be more eco-friendly? especially when it comes to our peripherals.
One thing we can do is be smarter about what we buy. Instead of always getting the latest thing, try to invest in products that are built to last. High-quality stuff, durable stuff. That way you're not replacing your gear all the time. And that means less electronic waste.
That makes sense. We'll buy once. But what about upgrades? Technology changes so fast, it's hard to resist that new, shiny thing.
I know what you mean. But here's something to think about. Look for companies that are trying to be more sustainable. Some brands are using recycled materials or offering replaceable parts, like batteries and switches. Some even have take-back programs for recycling. If you support those companies, you're encouraging them to do the right thing.
Okay, so durability and supporting sustainable brands, those are two good things to keep in mind. What about energy consumption? I know wireless mice can use more power than wired mice.
Yeah, that's true. But if you're using a wireless mouse, make sure to use those energy-saving features. Most models have sleep modes. They turn on when the mouse is inactive. And some let you adjust the polling rate to save battery.
Oh, that's good to know. It seems like there are always ways to make a difference, even small things. But hey, sometimes you just need a straight answer. We got a lot of questions from listeners who are still a bit confused about some of the tech stuff.
Yeah, let's clear things up. What do they want to know?
Okay, first up, optical versus laser sensors. We talked about them a bit before, but can you explain the difference and which one is better for gaming?
Sure. Both types of sensors track your mouse movements, but they do it in slightly different ways. Optical sensors use an LED light. It shines on the surface and tracks the reflected light. They're usually very accurate and reliable, but sometimes they have trouble on shiny surfaces.
Ah, so that's why my old mouse used to go crazy on my glass desk.
Exactly. Now, laser sensors use a laser beam. They tend to be more precise, and they work on more surfaces. But they can also have problems like jitter or acceleration, which can mess up your aim in games.
So which one is better for gamers?
For most gamers, a good optical sensor is the best choice. It's a good balance of accuracy, reliability, and performance. Plus, they've gotten a lot better recently. A lot of them can handle different surfaces without any issues.
Okay, that makes sense. Next question. DPI. What does it mean? And why should gamers care?
DPI stands for dots per inch. It's basically how sensitive your mouse sensor is. A higher DPI means your cursor will move farther for every inch you move your mouse.
So higher DPI means faster movement.
Yep. But faster isn't always better. For games like first-person shooters, where you need precise aiming, lower DPI is actually better. You need those small, controlled movements. Higher DPI can be good for other things, though, like navigating menus or playing games with lots of sweeping movements.
So it's all about finding the right DPI for your playstyle.
Exactly. A lot of gaming mice have DPI switching buttons, so you can change the sensitivity on the fly. It's worth trying out different settings to see what feels best for you.
Okay, cool. Last question. Programmable buttons. What are they all about? And how can gamers use them?
Programmable buttons are those extra buttons you see on some mice. They're like shortcuts. You can customize them to do specific things in games. Like, you could program a button to reload your weapon, or switch to a suit and grenade, or activate a special ability.
So it's all about making your gameplay smoother and faster.
Exactly. Most gaming mice come with software. You can use it to assign functions to the buttons, create macros, even adjust the lighting and sensitivity. It's worth taking the time to set everything up the way you like it.
Awesome. Well, I think that covers it. We've talked about wired versus wireless. We've looked at the tech. We've answered your questions. And we've even talked about being more eco-friendly.
It's been a great deep dive. But the most important thing to remember is that choosing a gaming mouse is a personal thing. There's no right answer for everyone.
Exactly. The best mouse for you is the one that feels good in your hand, the one that feels natural, the one that makes you a better gamer. Doesn't matter if it's wired or wireless, cheap or expensive, it's all about finding the tool that helps you enjoy the games you love.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, happy gaming.